Thank you to all the supporters, donators, and patrons on Patreon.
And now back to your regularly scheduled deprogramming.
Alice, wake up! Please wake up, Alice! Alice! Please wake up, Alice! Alice! Alice!
To be a champion footy player, it helps to have the athletic weapons of size, strength, and a mighty kicking boot. Hannah Mouncey certainly ticked those boxes and was in demand by the top clubs to play in the women's AFL. But the AFL said no. It decided she was ineligible for its competition because at 6'2" and weighing 100 kilograms, she was too much of a physical threat to her opponents. Now, while it might seem like a clear case of discrimination, it's not that simple. You see, Hannah wasn't born a girl, but a boy.
The only discrimination occurring is towards females. Our right to sex-segregated spaces, including sports teams, is being violated by the forcible inclusion of mentally ill males with disturbing fetishes.
It's not that simple.
It actually is very simple.
You see, Hannah wasn't born a girl, but a boy.
Born male, die male. Born female, die female. 500 years from now, Mouncey's skeleton will be male, just as it clearly is now.
It's a bloke in a dress.
Look, if that's what he thinks, that's... I don't really care. I don't really care.
Callum Mouncey was born October 21st, 1989. He's an Australian national team handball player.
I did a lot of really cool things as Callum.
Callum began his career playing handball for the Canberra Handball Club in the Australian Capital Territory. He was also the president of Handball ACT, the governing body for handball in the Australian Capital Territory and the surrounding region. Callum played 22 games with the Australian men's national handball team, debuting in the 2012 Oceania Handball Championship against New Zealand.
Away from the game, Callum was struggling with his identity. He was diagnosed with gender dysphoria, a condition where a person's gender is different to the body they were born in.
We are born either male or female. Gender refers to the sex role stereotypes attached to being either male or female. Not identifying with stereotypes associated to the sex you are born as does not make you the opposite sex. This piece from 60 Minutes Australia is deliberate propaganda intended to distribute disinformation and confuse people who have never heard of the term gender dysphoria. Gender identity disorder was renamed gender dysphoria in 2013 with the release of the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, published by the American Psychological Association that serves as the principal authority for psychiatric diagnoses. The DSM-5 gave gender dysphoria its own chapter, listing definitions for terms like gender expansiveness, cisgender, and gender fluidity. There is, however, no definition for biological sex. The language can and is being easily manipulated and obscured to completely erase the existence of biological sex. The APA makes the specific distinction that gender nonconformity is not the same thing as gender dysphoria, the difference being that someone who is experiencing gender dysphoria experiences significant distress associated with their gender nonconformity. Everyone has experienced some form of distress related to the stereotypes of the sex they are born as.
But then why do all the girls have to fight princesses? Some girls like superheroes, some girls like princesses. Some boy likes superheroes, some boy like princesses.
Absolutely.
So then, why does all the girls have to fight pink stuff and all the boys have to fight different color stuff?
The APA and the DSM-5 pathologize distress related to failure to adequately perform sex-based stereotypes. It is normal for women to have a variety of responses to living in a society that hypersexualizes women and values thinness, including self-destructive responses. Normalizing stereotypes attached to sex, for example, that women should be subservient to men, helps to hide and contribute to the reality of male violence perpetuated in domestic settings. The APA considers the distribution of dangerous puberty blockers to children, as well as daily injections of opposite-sex hormones and body mutilation of healthy genitalia, acceptable forms of treatment for people of both sexes experiencing distress related to failure to conform to sex-based stereotypes. Women who struggle with eating disorders and forms of body dysmorphia, such as anorexia, may be starving and emaciated, yet still convinced that they are fat. We do not validate their feelings and agree that they are fat. So why are women's rights being attacked under the guise that we all must validate the feelings of men who claim that they are women?
And that was tough because you're sort of going, I'm 80, 90, 95% sure, but until you go, okay, well, I'm going to even just walk around the block at 1:30 in the morning as a female and see how comfortable you feel. But until you go, okay, well, I'm going to even just walk around the block at 1:30 in the morning as a female and see how comfortable you feel.
The only way a person can do anything as a female is if she is born as a female. Just because a 6'2" hulking man is cross-dressing and lurking around his neighborhood at 1 a.m. does not magically transform him into a female.
So is that what you did?
Yeah, it was literally like 5 minutes outside, pray there's no cars coming, and then run back in. It's a difficult thing because the first time you do it, you go, Jesus, I look stupid.
He finally said something accurate. Yes, you look stupid. No, cross-dressing does not make you a woman.
Were you more attracted to
girls,
females
for
or
sure.
males?
Still am. And that's something people don't really understand, is gender identity and, sexuality, they're completely different.
Sexuality is who you are attracted to. Gender identity is your made-up fantasy about being a woman. This man is attracted to females and claims to be a female. Females who are attracted to females are lesbians. This is just a man in a dress with a fetish who is attracted to women. Between November 2016 and March 2017, Callum Mouncey was admitted to the hospital nearly 20 times because of mental health issues. That's basically once a week. In March 2017, Callum was admitted to the Canberra hospital again. After a few days, he was discharged. The doctor wanted to release Mouncey without prescribing him any further hormone treatments. She also notified Mouncey that she would be contacting his general practitioner and recommend that he no longer receive access to synthetic female hormones. Callum was told if he did not gather his belongings and leave within 15 minutes, security would call the police. While at the qualifying tournament for the Olympics in the Middle Eastern state of Qatar, Callum allegedly decided to, quote, transition to a woman. A male can never become a woman, no matter what he calls himself or what he wears. The oil-rich country of Qatar is a known transit and destination point for human trafficking. Until 1953, women and girls in Qatar were forbidden to formally learn to read and write. Arranged marriage is common. There are no laws against domestic violence, and violence against women and children is on the rise. Traditionally, women were not permitted to leave the home except for rare occasions, and women were not allowed to participate in sports until 1998. Qatar is to host the 2022 World Cup, yet women are still stigmatized from participating in sports.
There wasn't many girls playing football, so when the boys play, I go play with them, and my father would beat me sometimes.
In 2015, Callum said goodbye for the last time. And in his place came Hannah. Callum made the difficult decision to start hormone replacement therapy and send his body into puberty, this time as a woman.
An adult male cannot go through female puberty, even if he injects himself with synthetic female hormones and causes his male body to experience unnatural symptoms.
What did you have to do?
Essentially, look, I take 4 pills a day, estrogen and anti-androgen. And that's pretty much it.
Taking 4 pills a day won't transform a man into a woman.
Because you got a bit more grip on the ball, when I go to release the ball...
Hannah needed to relearn everything, from holding the smaller football
Took a bit of getting used to. The weight of the ball is different, so...
to powering her bigger body with no testosterone. She decided against gender reassignment.
Mutilating one's healthy genitalia does not change their sex or their gender.
Have you finished the transition?
Oh, look, I am transitioned. Some people will go, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cosmetic surgery and, reshape their jaw and, have surgery on their voice box and get breast implants and all sorts of stuff. I'm definitely not going down that path.
It doesn't matter what this delusional man does to change his body. It doesn't matter what he thinks. It doesn't matter what he says. He will always be a male, and that is a fact of life. It cannot be changed.
It's a bloke in a dress.
All I'm doing is being myself.
Hannah was ready for her next challenge, playing sport as a woman. And this year she joined the ladies' comp for Ainsley Football Club in Canberra.
What's she like to coach?
Yeah, she's good. She's good.
She give you any lip?
Nah, one of the many that don't, which is, but she's got a big, broad smile and,
Chris Rourke is the tough-as-nails head coach at Ainsley. He admits he was initially apprehensive, but says he's heard no complaints from Hannah's teammates or competitors.
Isn't it convenient that the major pieces of news propaganda surrounding Callum, aka Hannah Mouncey, do not include interviews with females? Specifically, they do not interview any female teammates or opponents of Mouncey. The voices of critical females are being strategically left out of the major news media when it comes to the transgender takeover of female sports and the destruction of female rights under the guise of advancing transgender rights, which are in direct conflict with female sex-based protections under the law. Aside from our voices being actively discluded and silenced, many women are plain and simple too scared to exercise free speech regarding our thoughts about transgenderism. For some, it's as simple as not wanting to offend or being confused. For many others of us, we are all too aware about the many instances of threat, of rape, violence, and death levied at women who don't believe men can become women, often labeled with the slur TERF. We women are waking up and we refuse to be silenced any longer. We will not allow the rights of women and girls to be destroyed to protect the feelings of men and women who believe they are the opposite sex. In April 2018, Callum began training with the Australia women's national handball team in anticipation of the International Handball Federation clearing him to play in the 2018 Asian Women's Handball Championship in Kumamoto, Japan. In this photo, Mouncey can be seen with some of his teammates who appear to be in their early 20s or possibly even girls in their late teens. Their faces seem to convey a sense of incredulous awareness that a muscular, chiseled man is towering at least a foot above them all, literally looming over them. It is unclear whether these particular women in the photo were forced to share locker rooms and showers with 6'2" Callum Mouncey. But thanks to a narcissistic editorial published in the Australian Star Observer in December of 2019, we now have first-hand knowledge that a group of female athletes on the team he invaded stood together with support from the team manager and refused Callum access to the women's showers and change rooms. I can confirm that yes, I was left out of the team for the World Championships because there was a large group of players within the team, supported by the team manager, who did not want me showering or using the change rooms before or after the game. Callum's editorial went on to complain about how some of the women who wanted him out of the women's showers and change rooms had publicly feigned support to his face. Women's fear to speak out about transgender males violating our rights and privacy may have something to do with the many, many public threats of violence to so-called TERFs, the designated slur for women who don't believe that men can become women. These unknown women who stood up and said, "No, I refuse to shower with a man and pretend he is a woman." They took action, they organized together, and they said no. And in doing so, they stood up for themselves and women everywhere. They chose to do what is right, even in the face of shame and intimidation. It is time for us all to draw a line in the sand. Biological males cannot participate in female sports. Biological males cannot take any place in any realm that is designated for women and girls, be it sport, education, political, or otherwise. No means no. No caveats, no ifs, no ands, no buts. Women must stand together across all intersections of life to say no and defend the sovereignty of our hard fought for and won sex-segregated spaces and positions. For more of my thoughts about Callum, aka Hannah Mouncey, and the propaganda surrounding his attack on female sports and rights, head over to my backup channel where you can watch a more informal response-style video. I break down a 60-minute interview with trans-identified male doctor Lisa Watson, who claims 6'2" Callum Mouncey is somehow actually at a physical disadvantage to females in contact sport. Subscribe to my channel for more unique content about sex robots, transhumanism, the normalization of pedophilia and drag kids, and the manufactured consent of transgender ideology. Please like, share, and subscribe to help subvert censorship and support independent, female-created media. This subject matter is dark. Positive messages are appreciated. To find more regular content from me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Deprogrammer XX. If you appreciate what I do, please consider supporting me by becoming a monthly supporter on Patreon or make a one-time donation via PayPal. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and don't let them gaslight you.